Hi, today I have a message called 70 times 7. There are two people who came to mind when this message was coming, so I'm going to thank them without naming them. But thank you to those two who helped me receive this message. Okay, so the short version, 70 times 7. Practice with each other. And if you don't know, this is a reference from the Bible, from Jesus saying to forgive your brother 70 times 7. The light of God in every heart is a candle that cannot be extinguished by the winds of change. The light of God in every heart is the only thing that is real and changeless. All else is conformable to the will of God. As you focus upon the light of God in someone's heart, it extends, and it also extends from within your own heart. Eventually you see that there is nothing between you, just rays of light meeting rays of light joyfully. Okay, so back to the beginning, 70 times 7, practice with each other. So that's what a day is for. It's practicing. And when I feel off in any way, that's when I need the 70 times 7. I need to see through the thought that ego has sent to me that I just believed, because that is the only way I can feel not good. A lack of peace, a lack of joy, is by believing thoughts that ego has sent to me at my request. And this whole story that is woven out of the thoughts ego has sent to me, it's very safe to allow that to fall apart, and not fall apart in the destructive sense. Just fade away into nothingness, and to allow what is here to shine into prominence. I need to remember that. Fade away into nothingness and shine into prominence. So sometimes when something comes through, I feel such gratitude, because it puts it in a way where I can understand isn't even the right word, grasp isn't even the right word. I can't find the right word, but it gets through to me somehow. I feel like I've integrated it or relaxed into it, and I feel so grateful. So it's definitely not just this isn't coming from a personality. It's the teaching of the day being gifted to me, and it's in a form that I can share. And it won't be the appropriate form for most people, but for a few, something in there will be helpful to you too. Okay, so today and every day is for practicing. If we're not just flowing in uninterrupted joy and peace, which I'm pretty sure is an abstraction at the end of time, because if any of us were doing that, we would end the world in the most positive way possible, meaning that all the struggle and strife would be wiped away, and we would just be here together in the glory of the light that we are, and we wouldn't be imagining this anymore. So we're all walking each other home together. We're all working on this together. Okay. The light of God in every heart is a candle that cannot be extinguished by the winds of change. So whenever I feel bothered by something, it's the winds of change. And so I might as well focus on what cannot be affected by that. And so if people are or even objects are figuring in what seems to be bothering me, the individual components in this wind of change, I can go inward past their exterior to the light of God that's in them and see this can't change, this can't be extinguished, and rest there, because all the meaning's there. Then if I need more specific instructions, they can come from this place instead of coming from reactivity and defense and fear. So the light of God in every heart is a candle that cannot be extinguished by the winds of change. Change is going to go back and forth. It's going to look good sometimes and bad other times. But there's something that cannot be touched and cannot be hurt. And it's the true and essential nature of everyone and everything. And I want to go a little further and say, like, even every concept, every situation, there's no thing that the ego would set apart and see as separate that does not have this light at the center of it. So there's no thing that the ego would set apart and tell you to consider as a separate thing that you cannot go past the surface of and go to the light, go into the light at the center of it and rest there and wait to be inspired. The light of God in every heart is the only thing that is real and changeless. All else is conformable to the will of God. So I'm being taught to rest in this light. And it's funny because as I'm being taught, I'll have periods of reactivity where I seem to be the furthest thing possible from resting in this light. I get shown the example and the non-example, and I experience both. But then I realize one is preferable to the other. Resting in peace is for the living, not for people who've been released from the fiction of the body. Resting in peace is for us, and this is what we can learn to do. And everything that seems to be changeable can conform with the will of God. That means the harmonic will, everyone's true will. I'm not talking about the will of the ego, the one who fearfully or defensively seems to want this and not want that. Not that. Our true and actual will is for happiness for everyone and even everything. And that will is harmonic. And that will is what we would call the will of God. So if we go and rest in this still place, in this quiet place, then we let everything that seems to be outside of that conform to the will of God, or conform to that harmonic will that we share. The light of God in every heart is the only thing that is real and changeless. All else is conformable to the will of God. So if I find myself fussing because something seems to be a certain way, I really need to go into the still place. And if any change needs to take place, if something needs to conform to the will for perfect happiness that all things share, their true will, then I give it that chance to conform. I don't try, when I stay on the outside and try to make things look a certain way, I'm not resting and allowing everything to conform to the will of God, which is the will for perfect happiness for everyone and everything. As you focus upon the light of God in someone's heart, it extends. And it also extends from within your own heart. So there's an advantage. Think about, instead of having wars, if we realized, you know what, we really need to sit down and rest in the light of God and allow it to extend, and in full confidence that when I allow it to extend in my heart, I allow it to extend in yours, and in full confidence that allowing the light to extend brings us any situation, any solutions we would believe that we need. And actually, this is, I have to be careful how I say this. Sorry for the long pauses, but when it's very difficult for me to comprehend, I have to wait longer. But the first thing I wanted to say was this is in our future. But the second thing I wanted to say was, there are about 14,000 things it seems I could say. All suffering could end right now. There's that. And we can just let what isn't here go. There's that. But the idea of sitting and allowing the light in our hearts to extend, And, I allow the light in my heart to extend, so I allow it for you too. And you do the same for me. That's, if I'm not going to let all suffering go right now, that remembrance is in our immediate future. There's no reason why it shouldn't be in our immediate future. I think that's as far as I can go with it today. I'm being nudged and nudged and nudged along this line, it feels like, and I think I got almost as far along that line as I could get. Let me just go over it one more time, see if there's anything here. As you focus upon the light of God in someone's heart, it extends, and it also extends from within your own heart. So the focus got put on the extension, and I'm just looking to see if I'm supposed to say anything about that. Oh, we haven't been believing the extension is possible. So it's like you can train yourself to look at the light within, but the extension part is really being highlighted here, and the effects of that extension part, and to put our faith and trust in that. And I think that's as far as I can go, because that's as far as my own faith and trust has gone. And if I try to speak beyond that, then I'm just kind of weaving fairy stories, which I get the sense I shouldn't do. I should speak in alignment with how far my faith and trust has actually gone. Something about that. I have to keep it within a parameter. So there's the parameter. I feel like I could tell you this huge, wonderful, beautiful fairy story, but if I did, my ego and yours would F it up. But if I stay within the parameters of the current condition of my faith and trust, then we're really speeding along here. We're doing really well. Something along those lines. Okay. But I gotta tell you, it's a beautiful fairy story, so it's very good. I don't even know quite what it is, but I can see how beautiful it is. Okay. Eventually you see that there is nothing between you, just rays of light meeting rays of light joyfully. So the ego wants stuff between us, wants drama, wants toys to play with. The ego sends us thoughts about wanting these things, and then we believe we want them. We believe the thoughts, and then we make the things that seem to stand between us, but all of those are imaginary. They're not real. So this is what we're working on, so we can bring forth. We're working on letting this go, seeing through this, seeing it never has been here, seeing it never has been real, so we can bring forth what is here to be brought forth for I feel like this is really obvious. Like I'm finally getting something that's really obvious. But when I say getting, it's not for an ego to understand. It's more like I'm remembering, and I almost feel silly, like oh okay. So eventually you see that there is nothing between you, just rays of light meeting rays of light joyfully. And so if I think that there is anything to you other than the light at your core and the rays of light that extend from that, if I think the reality of you is anything but that, I'm fooling myself. It's weird because I have to take space and time very lightly and very openly, knowing that I really don't know anything about it. When I look at this way, I really have to follow, because I really don't know the first thing about space and time, even though ego thoughts would tell me I do. I don't. But there is this guiding force here that will lead me through my perception of it, and I can see how important it is that if it's this light ahead of me I can follow. I'm very dependent on it. I can see how important it is. Eventually you see that there's nothing between you, just rays of light meeting rays of light joyfully. Okay, so may we meet each other joyfully today. Whether we seem to meet in the physical, or whether you come to my mind or I come to your mind. Really, the only thing that's between us is joy. And if I imagine anything else, I'm just wrong again. That's okay. I'm imagining that part. The real thing that's here is the joy and peace that we are together. Okay. Thank you for listening. Happy healing.